if you give all the time, it's going to kill you. And if you take all the time, no one's going to like you. So,
Right.
so strike that balance. I am exhausted. I'm just going to warn you right off the bat.
Okay.
25 minutes ago, I got home from work. And in those 25 minutes, I have fed the cats, taken a shower, cleaned my room, changed into my PJs.
Damn.
That's about it. I haven't smoked, which I'm proud of. And yeah, I haven't eaten yet, but I'm going to make a veggie burger when we're done here. So
That's pretty impressive for 25 minutes, though.
I know. Well, I'm just like shaking because, okay, so listeners, I work at a grocery store on the weekends, and it's like a 40-minute walk from my house. And so the weather was nice today, and by that I mean it was sunny and there wasn't snow on the sidewalk. And so I walked. On the way in this morning, I passed this big mirror with black and white checkered trim, which, you know, I'm a fan of the black and white checks.
Yep.
I was on the way to work, and I was walking. I didn't have my car, so I couldn't grab it. And so I hid it behind a bush. And on the way back, I picked it up and I walked like the last 5 blocks with it.
Oh, damn.
And then 2 blocks away from my house, I come across this beautiful marble top table, like side table.
Oh, shit.
And so I picked that up too. So in one hand, I'm carrying this heavy mirror. In the other hand, I'm carrying this table. And now my arms feel like jelly, like they're shaking.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty proud of myself.
All right.
That was a lot of rambling. I do have a tagline, though.
Oh, good.
We'll just cut all that, maybe.
Maybe.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome back to another episode of Pickle. I almost forgot what we were. Welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where we aim to please, but we're working on it.
Nice.
I am Christina.
And I am Lauren.
And today we are finally releasing your answers to our people-pleasing poll, which we released I don't even know how many weeks ago.
I know. I was thinking earlier how ironic it is that it's the people-pleasing poll and we're so late. I'm like, I feel so guilty that we're not getting it out on time.
Oh my God, you're right. That's ironic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it makes you feel better, one of the voicemails we got thanked us for extending the deadline.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So we have actually quite a few voicemails to get through today. I'm really, really excited. I think it's going to be a really great conversation. So with that said, why don't we just jump right into where you're at?
All right.
Lauren, where are you at today?
I, in preparation for this, wrote down 2 words about things to talk about.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
The first one is snow. St. Louis got hit hard. They're a place that gets snow, but not a lot. And so dealing with that the past couple of weeks has actually been really stressful. It's just kind of like, again, even though they get snow, it's just like they forgot how to deal with it. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before when it first snowed a lot, I couldn't get into work until Wednesday. And actually Wednesday and Thursday, I needed a coworker to pick me up because once it had stopped snowing, my area, they've got kind of little side parking lots, but I have to park on the street because they're nowhere near me and it makes no sense. And they never plowed my street. And so I am stuck in a snowbank. And of course, they plowed a little bit on the street, but that just plowed my car in. And it's just
of course,
I can't get out. And they're doing nothing and it's not melting. On Tuesday, when I had to work from home again, because I am the closest person to work. I'm it literally takes me 4 minutes to drive into work. And I'm just guys, there's nothing I can do. I can't get my car out.
Sorry, my hands are tied.
Yeah. And that's what, at the end of the day, when I was seeing nothing happening as far as clearing, that's when I sent a message on Microsoft Teams to everyone in the company, I'm really close to work. Would anyone be willing to pick me up? I would like to go into the office, but I can't.
They should pay your coworkers mileage.
Yeah, but reimbursing for mileage is like a certain amount per mile. So since it was like 1 mile,
Oh,
then they would have got $1 or something like that.
true.
But yeah, someone was nice enough to bring me in.
Bless them.
Mm-hmm.
That, I would think that St. Louis would be more prepared because, like,
Yeah.
remember when I visited you in person in 2022, it was in the middle of a snowstorm as well.
Yeah. And again, like I know they don't usually get a ton, but they get snow pretty much every winter. They have trucks and plows and things. I don't know what their problem was.
That's stressful, though.
A week later, driving on the highway, everybody's merging over. And I'm thinking, like, oh, it's an accident or something like that. No, just like one of the entrances onto the highway, how they'd plowed was just moving all the snow into one of the lanes.
Oh my God.
So you're just driving along and suddenly it's like, whoa, snowbank, gotta merge.
Amateur hour over here, St. Louis.
Uh-huh. I have not been impressed.
Everyone is freaking out about the snow this week. I mean, not to just ramble about the weather, but Virginia, like, people were coming into the grocery store where I work, like, buying everything, freaking out. It snowed like 2 inches, and by the middle of the day, it was gone.
And that's usually what I expect here. But I mean, my area where I am probably got, I'd say, like 6 or 7 inches. Areas around here got as much as like 12.
Ooh.
So we did actually get snow.
I mean, I love snow. I just don't like
too,
commuting in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the second word you wrote down?
ED.
Oh, goody.
Yes. Hang on. Ugh, Pico's trying to climb up. Okay. So we're recording a little late, and part of it is kind of related to I've been staying at the guy's house a little more.
Are you going to give him like a pseudonym or something, or are you just going to keep calling him the guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably should.
The bassist. That's what I call him.
That's fine. We'll call him the bassist. So I've been like staying over there more, and like that kind of like coupled with all of the weather, you know, it's like I went over there saying like, oh, I'll stay the night, and I ended up staying for like 3 last weekend. It's like part of that was like, I can't get out. But yeah, doing that 2 weekends in a row and just how things have been going lately. And I feel like I don't know, it's not on purpose, but it's also not on purpose.
Yeah.
It's kind of like once things as far as the eating disorder start to kind of like come back, then, you know, both of us as people that have been dealing with it for so long, it's really hard not to react like, oh, I'll just lean into it. Let's see where this goes.
It feels natural. You almost do it without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little push to resist, at least for me, but then usually I just end up giving in.
Yeah. So coming back from his place after this weekend is when I was like knowing that I was kind of like dealing with all that stuff as well. And it's sort of quote unquote reared its ugly head. And, you know, kind of dealing with that is like, oh, I feel like I need to figure out how I'm at least going to say something, because I've not told him a single word about that.
Well, so last week you announced that you had told him about the podcast.
Yes.
But he still doesn't know about your eating disorder history, you know, past and present.
Yeah, we've talked about a few other, you know, like mental health things that both of us have dealt with in the past, but that's one that I have not like brought up at all yet.
How do you, like, I don't know, as someone who overshares everything, I'm trying to get in your head and like, I don't know. I mean, you know that he'll be receptive to it. That's not the issue. Or is it? Do you think it would scare him away? Or like, talk me through your fears.
I don't think it would scare him away. I think we kind of established that last time, you know, with us talking about all these different things. I think what I am then maybe more afraid of is that he just kind of think like, oh, okay, well, it's not that big of, I mean, because of course I'm going to minimize. And you just be like, that's not that big of a deal. And I would be feeling like, oh, so you don't really care. Okay.
I mean, yeah, but the way you tell him matters. Because, like, the way you set it up.
Something I have been doing recently is listening to a couple, like, really old episodes, because I thought of that. I was like, what if I have him listen to a podcast episode?
Oh, good idea. Wait, what are your candidates?
So the first one would be the first, like, before I joined, like, the one I guested on.
Oh, yeah, episode 41?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's in the 40s, yeah. But I did, and I re-listened to that and I immediately felt like, no, that's more than I'm prepared to share. Another one, and I'm not sure if this one, because I re-listened to this one too, is the one where we did the kind of like mid-episode where I went to the psych ward.
Wait, that's not too much, but the one where you talk about paying for treatment?
I think because that one like touched on it, so it would mention like, oh, the eating disorder is there, but it isn't the focus.
Is it because like in society, people usually look at people, who are suicidal more seriously, or like it's more of an acute trauma?
And I felt, like us having talked about some mental health things, like that kind of stuff has kind of sort of been brought up. So, like some of that wouldn't be as big of a surprise. And it'd also slip in there like, yeah, this is a thing too that I've dealt with.
Okay. Man, what a decision.
I mean, as you know, yeah, it's easier in that way, but it also talks about a lot of shit. It's a heavy one.
I mean, it is. That's why I was like, wait, you want to show him that one?
Right. One thing I've been thinking of hanging out with him recently is, of course, if I'm going to be there for like 2 or 3 days, then the topic of food is going to come up.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, now, like the same way I do with my family and stuff like that. Like, even if it's uncomfortable, I just hide it and pretend like it's not. And I was just like, if I could say something, if you kind of like knew a little bit about this, then it would be easier to like say something like, hey, could you not ask me questions, when it's dinner time? Like, hey, are you hungry? It's just kind of like, could you just sort of like make the decision and then I can go along with it? But those questions are hard for me, actually, even though they seem innocuous.
That's rough, though. I mean, we talked about it recently on the relationships episode, but when you have an eating disorder and you are in a relationship, especially a new relationship, it's scary.
Yeah, because I mean, I know we talked about it then. It's like, that's not like, at least maybe for you, but for most people, it's not like the first thing you're going to like lay on the table.
And I got to admit, every partner I've told in the past has kind of reacted like you said, like they, expressed their concern. They were like, okay, I'll be there for you. Let me know how to help you. And then they just kind of like never talk about it again.
Yeah.
I had one partner who like actively researched bulimia and like I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that would be nice. And that was kind of actually why I thought of the podcast as a way to bring it up, because usually we give a lot of information and it'd be like, yeah, here's some insight.
I like that idea. That's what I would do.
All right. Maybe I will do that episode. Maybe I'll consider a different one. I'm still thinking.
You should give yourself a deadline.
You're right. I should. Ugh. All
right. You can do it. I really believe in you. And he sounds like a great guy. I think all your fears will be put to rest when you actually like start talking.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think at this point, that is kind of like my biggest one, is that it'll just be like, oh, well, like that's okay. That's a thing that people deal with. And I don't think anything different of you, but it'll come across to me as like, oh, so you don't really think it's a big deal. Like I've been telling myself for the past 30 years. Got it.
Oh my God, Ruby's like screaming outside my door. Hold on.
I can hear a little bit. Just to wrap that up, it feels almost shameful for me to be like, yeah, I want a person to be concerned if I say that, but it seems like, ugh, that's just you wanting attention.
That just means you're human, though. Like, we all want that. I want that.
Yeah.
I really want that. And the friends I have in my life that are close, like, they give me that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the people who don't really care, they're not in the inner circle.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. Not to minimize like the fear and the anxiety around it.
We'll say by the time we record, at the very least, I'll know what I'm going to do. If I'm going to share an episode, I'll have one picked out.
Is it weird to say I'm excited?
No, because you get me.
Too much.
So where are you at?
Well, I am officially an operator for the hotline that I've been training at for the last few weeks. It was really stressful, but I'm really excited to just like get started taking calls now.
So you haven't actually taken a call yet. You just got the go ahead.
Correct. I did 2 practice calls with my supervisor, who was like role playing as the person on the other end.
Because I'll be really curious once you've taken one.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'm nervous about that, but It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I know I can do it. And everyone I talk to about it is like, oh my God, that's the perfect job for you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess mental health wise, I'm also minimizing my relapse. I guess I should call it that. I'm not doing the best. And it's hard to talk about it because it's just like part of me wants to keep it a secret and wants to keep doing it.
Well, yeah, because that's the way it goes in general.
That's the way it goes. And I also am like functioning still, quote unquote. Like I have a social life and I have 2 jobs and I write and do the podcast and all this stuff. My life is very full. And so I'm still in denial that it is like impacting anything.
Right.
But it does affect obviously my energy levels and like my mood.
Yeah, I feel like some of that stuff, it's like what you're doing right now is you kind of can deny it when it's not impacting to the point of incapacitating you. I mean, I'm obviously really hopeful for you. You'll get to a point that you can look back on it and be past it. And that's when you realize, like, oh, yeah, it was affecting me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know it is.
Yeah, like you know now, but yeah, it's easier to see, I feel like later when it's like, oh, yeah, now I have more energy than I thought I would when I'm not doing that.
Well, yeah, I'm so scared of binging now that I've like been eating a little more throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what there is to say about it, really. It's just, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all for me. So yeah, with that said, are you ready to get into our poll answers?
Yes.
So we have 4 voicemails and 1 comment.
Woo!
The question we asked was, do you consider yourself a people pleaser, and how has people pleasing affected your life? So this first comment is from Melky. I don't know if they want us to say the name, but if not, I'll cut it out.
Okay.
So here is that voicemail.
I would consider myself a people pleaser. However, for me, I think that comes from a place of neurodivergence and trying to accommodate for said neurodivergence. I think for me, people pleasing came about as like a learned tactic that I learned that, if I overextend myself, whether it's emotionally or just doing things or giving time to people, they seem to like me. Even if it's not for me, even if it's for my deeds or whatever I'm providing to them, they seem to accept me a little bit more, which turned me into, for a long time, a really terminal people pleaser where I would go out of my way, so much so that I would feel really mentally drained, or I would feel like sad and bogged down by other people's problems that weren't even my own, because I was taking on so much emotionally with others just to feel liked or to feel a sense of connection or a sense of belonging where I feel like there otherwise might not be one. So I feel like people pleasing ended up being kind of a social coping mechanism for me to fill in the gap of something that I was afraid that I might not provide, or to make up for the fact that I feel like maybe, as I am on my own, maybe I might not be enough. So I must overextend myself for these people to have them like me, maybe just a little bit better. So then I can have a friend or a connection.
Whew.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we are both neurodivergent. Do you agree that people pleasing is a huge part of that?
Oh, yeah. I thought that made a lot of sense, and I couldn't believe that I hadn't really made that connection earlier because, I mean, I imagine when you are neurodivergent, you quickly learn being yourself, people don't know how to react.
Yes.
So you try to find a way for them to react good to you.
Masking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do what you think other people will respond well to based on the social cues that you have noticed, which when you're neurodivergent, you might have a hard time with social cues in the first place.
Right.
And so you think you're acting in a way that they'll like, but you're not sure. And for me, that results in a lot of anxiety. If I don't know where I stand in a relationship, I will exhibit people-pleasing behaviors.
Yeah. And actually, just as you're talking about it, I was thinking it's almost like doing homework for school or doing work for a job. You're just kind of I'm learning the ways that make people happy, and then I'm trying to do them. And no wonder that gets so exhausting, because if you were working 24/7 or you were doing homework all the time, that's not meant to be an all the time thing. And if you feel like that because that's how it feels to you to try and make people happy, then yeah, that's exhausting.
And like, I think some people thought they were supposed to explain like how not to be a people pleaser.
Okay.
And like, that's definitely not our goal. Like, we don't know how to stop being people pleasers.
Right.
But I will say it is easier to not be a people pleaser when you surround yourself with people that are like you
Or understand you.
Understand you. Yeah, when you surround yourself with people that understand you and that you feel like you have good communication with, like you don't have to guess where you stand around them because like they tell you.
Right.
But it's hard to find people like that.
The other thing that I got from listening to that voicemail is just like a lot of other like things that we do that we know are not necessarily good for us. It's kind of like you're chasing a good feeling.
Oh, I never thought about it like that before.
Yeah. So I was thinking like this person is people pleasing because they see that it's made other people happy. And that's kind of like, oh, I feel good because I made other people happy. And so I got to keep doing this because I like the feeling when I make people happy.
Well, sometimes it makes people happy. I feel like most of the time when you're like quote unquote people pleasing, and most people don't even notice.
True. Yeah. Or they take it for granted and then they just start to think like, oh, that's just how you are. And, that's fine. But you're like, I'm actually doing a lot of work here.
Well, and there's no appreciation. Like there's no recognition for it in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to be spending 24/7 doing work, you expect at least recognition.
Yes. Yes.
When they were talking about overextending yourself so you can feel like you have friends. Oh my God, that hurt because I've been doing that most of my life. I realize it hasn't always been easy to make friends. And so I feel like I have to do nice things for them just so they can like me. It doesn't occur to me that maybe they would like me just for my personality or whatever.
Yeah, I think I've talked in the past about like the area that I grew up and how they're really kind of like gatekeeping and everything like that. So even the people that I thought of as my close friends growing up, it's kind of like looking back, I realized like, oh, that was the same kind of way. It was just like I knew at times, oh, I just have to flatter them and make sure that I don't say what I really think because then they just might stop being my friend.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a trauma response. You are protecting yourself too when you do these people-pleasing behaviors, like when you mask and keep them like it's so they don't say something mean to you or ignore you or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
The last thing I wanted to say about that voicemail was when they were talking about feeling like they're lacking something. And that's why they feel the need to be a people pleaser because they're not enough on their own.
Yes.
And that also hurt because same.
Yeah, because I felt that too. Yep.
But thank you for leaving that voicemail, Milky. First time voicemail leaver. I feel like we need a little jingle or something when someone leaves a voicemail for the first time.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, which one shall we listen to next?
How about Janai?
All right. So this is from Janai, friend of the pod, famous for the sex-isode.
That's always going to be your claim to fame.
That's your pickles and vodka legacy.
Yes.
Okay, here it is.
Hello and welcome to Pickles and Vodka Podcast. Anyway, so people pleasing. It's a coping mechanism, a survival mechanism, if you will, where you put other people's needs above your own to your own hurt. The questions were, how are you a people pleaser? How has people pleasing affected your life or yourself? And how can you not be a people pleaser? I don't know if I will be answering that last one, as my life is currently getting wrecked by people pleasing that I do. So I am a people pleaser. 100% self-diagnosed. I have always, from youth to where I sit right now, been a people pleaser. In youth, I was scared of being hurt in every way, and that never stopped. So I'm always scared of hurting someone else or having to, whatever. So I put them first. I am constantly letting people just live without accountability because I want to keep the peace and make them happy. And it's so negatively affecting my life. It definitely does not help my mental health. People pleasing has affected my life by encouraging me to stay in situations that have no hope to stop harming me. It has affected my life by encouraging me to give everything of myself to, or my possessions, to people who give nothing in return. But there's always a way to twist that, oh, they do give to me, so they, I have to do this. I have to. It affects me physically and emotionally and mentally. It's draining. I already have low energy from chronic illness, and the lengths I go to please people and keep myself small so as not to make an impact are astounding. It's unreal. It's unacceptable. I would not encourage anyone I actually loved to be like this. And the need to do it almost leaves like the endless cortisol spike of like, I need to be safe. I must continue to hurt myself to stay safe. And people pleasing isn't just like, oh, I want to please people. It's like, well, I can't speak for everyone. I suffer with obsessive compulsive disorder, and it is definitely an obsession when I think of how I must act to keep the peace, and then I act on that. It feels like a trap that like you don't really think is a trap because you're just doing what's right. You're just like, you just want to make people happy. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You want people to be happy because you owe them for, bringing you to life, letting you live somewhere, feeding you. So for me, people pleasing definitely feels like I owe the people who I let hurt me everything. And I don't know how not to be that way. I don't even remember what I said, to be honest. Sorry. Bye. Love you guys.
We love you, Janai.
I know.
What are your thoughts?
I took so many notes.
Me too.
I mean, the first thing I feel like was kind of like reiterating what we said about the last one. There was like how much energy it takes. And I really latched on to the word when they said it's about survival.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And you really feel like you're going to die if you don't act that way to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like, I know Janai has childhood trauma. It might be true. Like, maybe you did have to be a people pleaser just to survive.
Right. Yeah. That was something like towards the end where I took a note where they said that they feel, like they owe it to people. And, oh, God, the one that hurt the most is saying like, oh, because the things they've done for you, like they've brought you to life. And I'm like, oh, God, that one's so hard. Where it's just like, dealing with family or parents that you just, yes.
Yeah. Well, oh my God.
Because even if you don't have a parent that says that, and by the way, if you do, that's a super toxic phrase. They're just like, yeah, I brought you into this world or something like that.
I can take you back out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But, even if they don't say something like that.
Oh my God. Sorry.
That's all right.
The cats are catting.
Okay.
Bro. I'm gonna, hold on. I'm so sorry.
It's actually great because every time you do that, then I think of something more on what I'm talking about.
Oh, perfect.
Because we were talking about the parents that say like they brought you to life or something like that, and even if they haven't said that, if you feel that kind of like guilt sometimes from them, and what I was thinking of is we have talked about my sister growing up who was just like severely brain damaged and kind of had no more capacity than a newborn, but she lived till she was 13. And I know like that's something that I always think of on a similar vein with my mom. Like whenever she would be like mean to me or do terrible things to me after my sister died, then I would always think like, well, yeah, but she had her child die in her arms.
Mm.
And I mean, of course, yeah, that is terrible. And a parent shouldn't have to go through that, but I would use that a lot in my mind that it's just kind of like, well, I got to give her a pass on some things and I have to make things easier for her because of this awful thing that happened to her.
It's self-sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And like, a child obviously shouldn't be sacrificing themselves for their parents' needs, but like it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Particularly with emotionally immature parents. Which I finally placed that book on hold at the library, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
I need to find it and finish it. I remember I got like 2/3 through it and then I forgot about it, probably because I moved.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
And it doesn't blame the parents. It just points out, like, this is why things don't work in your family.
Yeah, like if you're a people pleaser, it's most likely because you have developed that like as a coping mechanism. You didn't know you were necessarily becoming that way, but one day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, this is really destroying my life and I don't know how to stop, like Janai said.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with staying in harmful situations hit me so hard. I mean, the whole family thing we could talk about a lot. I grew up in a really, strict household where if you acted quiet and respectful, like you received a lot of praise. And if you, did all your chores and like helped out, the more you helped out and, people pleased, the better you were. And oh my God, Fang is under the carpet. He has slithered under the carpet. Fang, he's just staring. I'm going to, but if I kick him out, he'll meow. It's like Meatball has come in here.
It's like the spirit of Meatball has possessed your cats.
I mean, he's not dead or anything.
No, but...
All right, I think he's stopped for now.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I was thinking of romantic relationships too.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you were just talking to, because I was like, I know you have a lot of history of this with both your family and in relationships, like romantic relationships.
Oh, back to the family. I wasn't done yet.
Okay.
Yeah, as the oldest of 7, my job was to be a people pleaser, you could say, because not only did I not want to get in trouble, but it was kind of an unspoken thing that I was supposed to be an example for the younger kids.
Right.
And, every good Christian girl should be self-sacrificial, like, blessed are the meek, they there's a bunch of verses I could quote, but I won't.
Sure. And I, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, we've talked about this before too, like with my family as well, because when I was even, just like 5 or 6 years old, then that's what I remember being all like the compliments that were rained on me as a kid is they're like, oh my gosh, she's so quiet and she just like takes care of herself. You hardly even know she's here. It's great.
Yeah. And then I go home and I just like lock myself in the bathroom and cut myself.
Right.
And like nobody's the wiser.
Yeah, but you're like, but I wouldn't tell anyone because I don't want to disrupt the peace.
Oh my God, yeah. When our family would go out in public, it was rare that we could afford to eat at restaurants, but like when we did, because our family was very like authoritarian, like we were afraid of being punished. And so of course in public we like acted great.
Right.
And so we would get so many compliments from strangers like, how do you get your kids to be so well behaved?
Yeah, like you've got this big family and they're just all perfect angels.
Yeah. And then, I have one brother in particular that I've talked about before, probably before you even came on, but he has had a lot of struggles in his life and he's kind of like the black sheep of the family. I know you're surprised it's not me. But yeah, he got, hit the hardest growing up because he refused to fall in line. He refused to be a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. And now he's severely traumatized and mentally ill and an addict and all this stuff. And it just makes me so angry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like when it comes to romantic relationships, I'm going to relate this to my coming out because that's what I'm thinking about. So you're familiar with compulsory heterosexuality.
Yeah.
Basically, like, there's no other option but to be straight growing up. It's so normalized, you don't learn that there's anything else out there. And so, like, I thought I was straight. And all my past relationships have been very traditionally, like, gendered. Like, I would try really hard to be, like, the perfect domestic, like, girlfriend. And, I wouldn't bring up money troubles because that would make them angry. If they didn't clean up after themselves, I would be like, oh, well, they're working so hard. Like, they do so many other stuff for me. Like, one time you made me frozen chicken nuggets. And so, like...
Yeah, so you do things for me, and that's nice. I should just be grateful.
Exactly. And now I'm like, oh my God, you were a shadow of yourself because you were spending all your energy trying to make the other person happy. And, like, of course, I was confused about what would make my male partners happy because, like, I was gay.
Yeah.
And like that didn't come naturally to me, but
yeah, so you're just putting on an act the whole time.
Yeah, masking on so many different levels.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say?
I think the only other thing, I don't know what to say about it, but I just like jotted it down because it was so interesting to me how they related it to OCD.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'd never thought of it that way, and that made so much sense.
That kind of relates to the trauma piece of it because it's an obsession, right? For them,
Mhm.
like people pleasing is an obsession, but why are you obsessed with it? Because you feel unsafe.
Yeah. And
And,
then
like-
obviously, like we've said, once it starts to work, it becomes a compulsion as well. So it just made a lot of sense.
Or if it's not working, you're obsessing over that. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what can I do better?
Yeah,
Like,
what
it's
can
all
I
my
change?
fault.
Yes.
Yeah, what can I change about me? Like, you never stop to consider, like, maybe I shouldn't be trying to please this person because they wouldn't do the same for me.
Right.
Or they're actively harming me.
Yeah.
And that's a really rough situation. Janai, I love you so much, and I hope things get better for you.
I know.
Okay, next voicemail.
All right. Since you gave me all of them up front and I don't remember the fourth name, I'll say Jess because
Okay.
I don't remember the last one.
The fourth one was anonymous,
Oh, okay.
but we'll do Jess's first.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, Lauren and Christina. It's Jess. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I am sick and my voice will probably cut in and out. The pickle poll of are you a people pleaser? Yes. Yes. And it really pisses me off. The majority of my life, childhood, teens, early adult, I was very authentic. I did not care what people thought. I was going to be myself. I didn't care. I remember my mom making comments to me that my I don't care attitude would come back to bite me in my ass someday, which I don't think it ever did, to be honest. However, I got married in 2011, and somewhere between 2011 moving forward in my marriage, the control kind of started to take over some of my authenticity. And unfortunately, I think my marriage was where I started to learn to be a people pleaser. Keep the peace was easier than the confrontation. It was easier than the lectures. It was easier than the shame and the upset. Then I got out of my marriage. I went into an even worse relationship. That was an abusive relationship. And I think that's where my people pleasing really came to life. I learned to do everything possible to make everybody else happy around me to avoid the chaos and the shit show that would come if I didn't. I'm not sure if you've heard of the gray rock method. It's a very common thing used in abusive relationships. The idea is to be a boring gray rock on the beach because people don't pick those up. So you have very minimal reactions, very minimal emotion or displays of to keep your abuser from seeking that supply from you, from getting that reaction. So I really perfected that in that relationship. And it turns out that kind of stuck somehow. I am currently working on my people-pleasing tendencies in counseling, and that is something I'm trying really hard to get back, is to have that ability to stand up and say, no, I'm not cool with this, or this is really what I want, instead of just cowering down and saying, yeah, we can do what you want, even though it's not what I want because it keeps you happy. Thankfully, I don't have people in my life that treat me like shit if I push against their wishes, which is really helpful. But they're still very deep bedded in me from trauma and all of the other things I probably don't need to explain. So yeah, this is a great question. I'm really excited to hear this next pod in the poll response. Thank you guys for this. Also, thank you for extending it because I just don't have it together enough lately to do these frequently.
Yeah, we totally extended it on purpose.
Yes.
Not because we lost control of the situation. The thing that stuck out to me at first, because so far we've been talking about people pleasing as a result of trauma.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that for her, it was a learned behavior.
Yes, that's what I wrote down, like people pleasing as societal pressure.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Well, and especially, if you're a woman or like female presenting, like you are expected to be a people pleaser. Like that's just what it is expected of you in society.
Yeah, when she started saying like it kind of came as a result of her marriage, like that actually changed her, then I was like, oh, well, yeah, because that is, like, I can totally see that. Like that's sort of, again, a societal expectation of marriage that is just like, oh, be the good wife.
Yeah. And, it's a total double standard because men are not expected to be people pleasers. In fact, you're more of a man if you challenge the status quo. Like if you challenge the people around you, that earns you admiration and respect.
Yeah. I loved the idea where she was talking about at the end about like trying to get out of that. Because in the beginning, she said like, that's not who I was at all. And that she kind of like sounded like she put some pride on that, like being known as a kid of just like, you just do your own thing.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't being told always positively, it sounded like from her mom, but that she was just kind of like, yeah, that's me. I like who I am. And working to get that back reminded me, I think I've talked about this before when my mom told me when we moved to a townhome apartment complex and there were like playgrounds and tons of kids out. And she said that I would see kids out on the playground behind our place and just say, oh, new kids to meet, and just like run out to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I remember when she first told me that and I was just like, who is that person? How do I get her back?
And like, yeah, Jess used the word authenticity a lot, or like her authentic self. And yeah, for you, maybe that was your authentic self at first. Like just you are outgoing and social and you want to make new friends.
Yeah, and I definitely lost it because when I heard that story, I was like, that I don't even know who that person is.
Well, and I think that is connected to people pleasing because one thing I wrote down is that people pleasing isn't always like buttering up to the person and like doing nice things for them. Sometimes it's just being quiet.
Yes.
And like not doing anything because you're worried if you talk to someone or like invade their personal space, there will be repercussions.
Oh yeah, I've definitely done that before where, you just see that somebody is not maybe like responding to you super positively. And so it's just kind of like, oh, I guess I should just be quiet and let them have their space.
Yeah, the gray rock method, she called it. That was super interesting.
I like that because I had never heard that, but it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. But Jess, it sounds like you're doing an amazing job trying to unlearn some of that. And we're really proud of you.
Yes, I would like to see you be your authentic self.
Yeah, stir some shit.
Yeah.
Get in people's faces.
Yes.
Be a bitch.
Yeah, right.
Okay. The last voicemail is from Anonymous.
Okay.
I've started recording and stopped recording and re-recorded this a lot. But yeah, of course I consider myself a people pleaser. I think that's a trap that a lot of people get themselves into. And like, it's stupid. I like sent my friend like a meme once that was like, you're a people pleaser, like name 4 people that are pleased with you or something. It's like, yeah, I mean, no one is actually really happy with people acting like a people pleaser, but I do it. And I think a lot of that is driven by anxiety and wanting to control situations. And I hope I don't re-listen to this and delete it again. Maybe I'll just stop now.
Did you have a cat at the very end?
Yes,
I think that was a cat.
I was wondering when I heard that, I was like, was that yours or theirs?
No, it was theirs.
Okay.
Another first-time voicemail sender. Yay!
Yay!
But yeah, they also mentioned like controlling the situation, which Jess mentioned too.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Like when you feel out of control, that can be your only way to control it.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about control all the time on this podcast. It's why we have eating disorders. It's why we do a lot of the maladaptive things we do to ourselves because it gives us some semblance of control.
Mm-hmm. The first word I wrote down was trap. Like all of them have had like amazing buzzwords that I've written down.
I know, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, do you relate to that?
Yeah, I guess so. It made me like start thinking, but now I'm thinking of relating it to myself as well. And I don't know, it's a thing kind of like we've talked about, earlier, that it's like once you start doing it, then it seems like you can't stop.
Yeah, exactly. Like they think that is the authentic you and you feel trapped, like you have to keep performing.
Yeah, you start to see like, oh, like maybe it's not like doing great things for me because as we've said, people then just take you for granted. But you're like, what if I stop?
Yeah, then everyone will hate me.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of like every job I've had. I've been a people pleaser.
God, yes.
and that's true. Like when you start a job and you immediately just like go above and beyond and take on every extra task, like people just think that's what you do and you're trapped. Like from then on, everyone is going to assume that you are going to do all that extra work and you kind of dig yourself a hole.
I currently do that in my job and I have talked about kind of like my situation and stuff at work. And I do actually feel like most of my coworkers are good people and I don't really have a problem with any of them. But I've thought of this, I mean, for the past couple of years, like for some reason, my boss, I don't think he's a bad guy, but I do feel like he doesn't like me. And I feel sometimes like I'm the only one he doesn't like. And yeah, like because I do like still think he's a decent person, he's not going to like take it out on me or anything like that. But at the same time, it makes me feel like if he ever comes by and asks what I'm doing, then I always have to be in a good mood.
Or doing something productive.
Yup.
I mean, I think a lot of people feel like that about their bosses. Like I've felt like that about every boss I've ever had. I just thought they hated me. But every boss I've had has like left me great feedback. And I'm like, damn, I was sucking up for nothing.
Right.
Or maybe like that's why they gave me good feedback, in which case it's not even like really accurate because that's not me.
Yeah, but I mean, in my case, I feel like I do think that he sees that I do good work and stuff like that, but I see him respond to everybody else and it feels, like he wants to have real conversations with them and he's interested in them and it's just not me. So that's why I always feel like I know he doesn't have a reason to fire me and I think he realizes that. I think, it's just kind of like you're not going to like every person. I just don't think that he really likes me.
And that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But the upshot of that is then that's what I feel like is like, well, I can't force a person to like me if they just are like, I just don't feel it with you. But on the other side, then that's why I feel like, okay, but I may have to make sure to not give him any reason to like rethink things. I have to be happy. I have to be positive all the time.
I mean, it's okay not to be liked. Oh man, I just saw a really great quote about this. I don't remember, but like something about the freedom of being unliked. Because like, for me, that wasn't even an option. I'm like, obviously, you don't want anyone to dislike you. So, like, everyone in the world has to like me.
Yes.
And that's just impossible.
Yeah.
And I mean, even today, like, I can't really name anybody that, like, actively dislikes me.
Right.
That they've said, but I'm sure there's people out there that don't like me. And, like,
but yeah, that is just human nature. Like, even if you don't have a reason to, like, I guess
I don't like everyone.
Yeah, and like people might not actively hate me. I don't think I've given anyone a reason for that, but they are going to dislike me because that is just, you meet a person and you don't have a reason why. You're just like, I don't really like them.
Yeah. And I like that Anonymous was talking about that meme and like, name 4 people that are actually pleased. Like,
I loved that.
Yeah, like who is actually happy when someone is like sucking up to them and like doing the things that I don't know, maybe there are some people like bosses.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think it's the point that we've been making that is just like, no, that just makes them comfortable. They don't really think about it. It doesn't disrupt them. So
it's the easy thing, which Jess mentioned. I'm sure someone else mentioned. Like people pleasing is the easy thing in the moment because there's less conflict. Like no one likes conflict. I don't.
No.
Okay, so this is a nice long episode. We have one more comment, and I can read it because I already have it open.
Okay, and I did read this comment, and I think it is a great one to end on.
Oh, yeah. So this is from Vicky, another friend of the pod. She was on an episode like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, something like that.
It was really good. But Vicky says, I absolutely consider myself a people pleaser. I'm not nearly as quote unquote bad as I used to be, but yeah. I want to keep the peace, avoid conflict, be a giver more than a taker, sometimes at the expense of my time and energy and my own happiness. I think getting better at setting boundaries and sticking up for yourself rather than getting walked all over and pleasing everyone but yourself in the process almost naturally comes with aging and maturing. So I don't think it's anything I've worked particularly hard to overcome. That is so true. I mean, I'm younger than you, so why don't you take the lead on this?
I think that was one of the reasons that I loved that one because I do see that with us. I mean, I do think that we're both like evolving and working on ourselves, but I see it like with me more than you it's like sometimes when we're debating things like, oh no, is this going to offend people? Then I'm like, I don't care. Just put it out there.
Well, no, that is one thing I admire about you.
But I do think, like me 10 years ago would have been the same as you. And it is like, I feel the same as Vicky. Like, I can't name it. I just, as I get older, is just kind of like, let's stop doing this. I mean, maybe for one thing, because it's not working.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not working. All it's doing is making you tired and unpleasant because you're like anxious and, and bitter and because like no one's reciprocating.
Right.
And that's no way to live your life. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. And another, like in the beginning of her comment, what I latched onto is saying like it made her a giver more than a taker.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's hard.
My reaction to the word taker is that it's a bad thing.
Me too.
Like, who wants to be a taker?
Yeah, that makes you like selfish, evil person.
Yeah, but like
in this case,
it's a balancing act.
Yeah, like being a giver sometimes and a taker sometimes is being true to yourself. Like it's not really the same thing as, I think we've both agreed on this, like as far as giving gifts, we prefer to be the giver. And I feel like that's a different thing because we both get enjoyment from that.
Yeah, and everyone's different. Like everyone gives and takes differently. Everyone needs different things. Everyone has different things to give.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it really is all about balance.
Yeah, because giving your personality all the time is not the same thing. It's like, that's just kind of like exhausting yourself.
Yeah, if you give all the time, it's going to kill you. And if you take all the time, no one's going to like you. So,
right.
So strike that balance.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this was such a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This is like one of the most thought-provoking pickle polls we've done, which is surprising because originally I was like, oh, people-pleasing.
I know, it sounded so generic, and I was just like, we probably won't even get many responses, but it was great.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who responded. We love you.
Oh, I do have to say something I forgot to say up top. This is completely unrelated. I just wanted to make sure that I told you.
Oh my God. What?
So one of the things when I was hanging out with, as we're now calling him the bassist, then we had some time to kill, and there's this place called the Antique Mall near him. And he was like, oh, we should stop in there. And I was like, okay. People rent these booths inside this place.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's more like a million people's garage sales.
Yeah. I've been to a few places like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, so it was fun to look around, and I found authentic roller derby roller skates that fit me, and I bought them.
What?
Yes.
Oh, my roommate's
so
sleeping.
excited about this.
I just screamed. Wait, what do they look like? And what makes it authentic roller derby skates?
I mean, I don't know what makes them that. I do know, like, just, like spinning the wheels. I'm like, I can tell these are high quality and they feel amazing, but they're stamped like official roller derby. Yeah.
Oh my God, what color are they?
I think they're blue with red wheels. I mean, they kind of felt like a generic look, but I was so excited to have roller skates, and they actually like fit my feet perfectly.
Oh my God, next time we meet in person, we have to roller skate together.
I know. So excited for that. Okay.
We should have like a pickles and vodka meet and greet, and everyone should come with roller skates.
Yes.
I'll just keep nurturing that fantasy.
Okay, but at least you and I are roller skating for sure.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, thank you, everyone. We technically have a poll out right now about New Year's resolutions, but I forgot to make a graphic for it and post it to the Instagram, so probably no one has remembered. So,
okay.
What was the question even? You came up with it. It was like,
do you make New Year's resolutions? Maybe why or why not? I don't know.
Yeah. So I will post that to the Instagram this week, and hopefully the answers can start trickling in. Next week, we'll have a brand new topic of your choosing.
So we can have 2 polls out again.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I hope the snow goes away.
Me too.
And that's pickles and vodka.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like what you heard, tell a friend about the podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where you can find our entire back catalog and links to all our social media. We love hearing from our listeners, so send us a voice message at speakpipe.com/picklesandvodka or DM us at Pickles and Vodka Podcast on Instagram. My personal account is at XtinaJumper, and Lauren is at Lauren3_AFH. We'll see you next week.